What's up, guys? Justin for the 330 Sports Show. Brett Franklin and Greg Kirchner are joining me. We're going to do a bracket challenge, kind of like a throwback Thursday bracket challenge. And we are going to vote and move on the top, I'm going to call them like sitcoms of the 1990s. So what I did is, I just sent some messages out to some people and gathered some information and got some of their feedback on their top shows. And then I just went and seeded them 1 through 16 based on what a lot of different people said. And here's how this works. So all shows must have taken place for the majority of their run in the 1990s. So they could have started in the 80s and finished in the 90s. Like the Wonder Years is a perfect example. I believe that show started in 1988, but ran through like 95. So the majority of the show took place in the 90s. The Simpsons and cartoons we took out. The Simpsons is like a 30-year run anyway, so that does not take place. I took out and excluded all of their like cartoon type series. So this is actual, real life sitcom, whatever you want to call it, shows. So with that said, I'm going to throw up the bracket here, and bear with me as I get this up on my screen, and we will get going. So Greg and Brett, while I'm sharing this, like, just give me some, this kind of took place during our, I guess our early middle school years to like, late high school years. So give me some just initial thoughts on what you remember from the 90s. Brett, let's start with you.
I remember early bedtimes and dying to stay up late to watch some of them.
Okay.
I remember actually, like, I don't know how even old I was, but like at one point in time, I got my bedtime pushed back to 9:30, and I was able to watch Home Improvement at 9 o'clock. And I was
okay. Okay.
All right. Like, I think it's just nostalgia at this point, like looking back on all of them.
Yeah.
Even shows that I may not have watched all that much, I remember them. I remember episodes about them. There's specific things. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun, just kind of looking at what we're getting into here.
Greg, how about you?
Yeah, it reminds me of like a day when TV was everything. Like TV was like, I mean, besides like going outside playing in the yard and stuff, playing backyard football, like TV was life. There was no internet, and like these shows were on. There were no reruns on. You couldn't go stream it after you watched it. It was just that, it was that era where these shows were literally appointment viewing, and you kind of just remember the feeling associated with watching these, or just like the TGIF, so it's just that's what that sort of made me think of. Just kind of brought back those memories, just sitting in front of the TV at a certain time watching shows.
That's an excellent point, because I don't think anyone that's living nowadays would even, that didn't grow up in this area would even understand what you're talking about. It's like, if you missed the show, like, you were kind of screwed, I mean,
even with the TGIF, we have 3 of them are from TGIF on here.
Yeah.
Right.
But then the other one, I mean, that was like when we were younger, the TGIF, and then it got to as we were just a little bit older, and then it was Thursday night. Thursday night was then the big night. And to your same point, if you missed something, you were in trouble.
Yes. Yep. Yes. So I kept it to mostly comedies too. So you're not going to see like ER on here, and you're not going to see other shows like that as well. Now let me go through real quick the regions, and then we're going to go through each matchup and move them on. So I just broke these regions down based on like 90s characteristics. So you'll see the East Coast versus West Coast region. We got Seinfeld and Frasier, Boy Meets World, and Family Matters. In the Rollerblades region, I know Mr. Kirchner, or at least Kirchner Sr. would be able to probably live in this region here. The Fresh Prince and Mad About You. You got Home Alone and the Wonder Years. Did I say Home Alone? Home Improvement?
Home Improvement.
Excuse me, Home Improvement, which, by the way, I always called that show Tool Time for some reason, because that was the show within the show. But anyway, neither here nor there. The Starter Jacket region, we got Friends and Martin. We got Married with Children and Roseanne. So a lot of regions represented there. And then, of course, Franklin, you can relate to this one, the grunge music region. This was kind of like the Nirvana, the garage bands, like the punk music, like kind of all making its come up within the 90s. In this region, we got Full House, we got Third Rock from the Sun, we got Saved by the Bell, and we got Everybody Loves Raymond, which, by the way, ran, I think, until 2005, but the majority of the show ran during the 1990s. So
it's just a good show.
Yeah, it's just straight up a good show, man. So, all right. Before we get started, do you guys have any shows on here, or what shows are glaringly omitted from this bracket? Anything you guys can think of?
I mean, I think there's a couple when you kind of look at that 80 to 90 range, like it's kind of like, how did they fit?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, like Growing Pains, Who's the Boss, those two shows, which were still very prominent in the really to the mid 90s, but those would kind of be it. I mean, there's a handful of other ones, but for the most part, I think those two for me are probably the biggest omissions.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have any. I mean, I didn't rack my brain on it too much, but I think this is a pretty good, but I was thinking things like ER and, or like, what, I don't even, NYPD Blue or whatever. But since we're kind of sticking to sitcoms, I think it's a pretty good list here.
Okay. All right. Well, and I wouldn't classify like Saved by the Bell per se as a sitcom, but you get it. You guys know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's start with the East Coast, West Coast region. Let's start with Seinfeld versus Frasier. So, Greg, let's start with you. Obviously, I think Seinfeld is probably the overall number one seed based on the input and intel I got in. So, Greg, give us your thoughts on Seinfeld and Frasier, and give us a vote which you think is moving on.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the fact that we almost every time we're on this show, we try to weave in some type of Seinfeld reference, just shows how much part of the overall, pop culture and just your overall. I mean, I probably still say, three things a week in conversation, whether it be at work or whatever, or texting with you guys, that is some type of Seinfeld reference. So it's lived on. Obviously, we could go on and spend a whole hours talking about Seinfeld, but that it's got its place in the Hall of Fame. Frasier's a show, spin-off show from Cheers, I guess you could say, and or at least a character. And I can't say I watched a ton of it, but I mean, I know it had a really good run. But for this matchup, I think Seinfeld moves on for me.
Brett, you there?
Looking very stoic right now.
Did he freeze up? Well, Brett, you back?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, it looked like it froze up on me.
Okay. You're fine. We're back now. All right. Okay. So give us your thoughts and your vote for Seinfeld and Frasier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with Greg on this one, on both of them. I'll start with Frasier though, just because he started with Seinfeld. But Frasier, I did watch Frasier. It was a good show. I wouldn't say there was anything overly memorable about it. And honestly, one of the biggest things to me was the fact that the cleaning woman or whoever, I think it was a caretaker for Frasier's dad, was the Virgin in Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah,
so to me, it's just there's just that connection there. But it was, again, good show, nothing overly memorable about it in terms of memory. It's just okay. But Seinfeld, there's so many parts of Seinfeld that you can just quote on a daily basis. There's things that still ring true today.
Oh, yeah.
You can say from that show that still makes sense. Of course, there's parts that are outdated, but even them, they're still funny. You can still figure out the reference to it, and it's clear to me that why this would probably be the number one seed overall too.
No doubt. Well, it's funny you guys both say that. So still relevant. I was just eating dinner a little bit ago, watching Seinfeld, and it's Kramer and Poppy are trying to start a restaurant, with a pizza baking oven, whatever. So Elaine and Jerry go into the restaurant, and Elaine, they're just not huge fans of this Poppy guy. Anyway, Elaine asked him his stance on abortion, which is very relevant in the news today. And
hot topic right now, yeah,
and,
for sure.
And he, he was not pro-choice, let's just say that. And pretty much the restaurant cleared out. And I was just like, I mean, my God, that show was 30 years ago and it's still relevant today. So, and like you guys said, I think we quote it all the time. Frasier, to me, was kind of like a little bit of a higher brow type show, a little like, I don't want to say like snobby, but like Frasier and his brother had kind of that, kind of like that uppity attitude, and wasn't necessarily like our cup of tea, I guess. Maybe like, our parents, or like, maybe it was like a little bit of an older generation type show that wouldn't kind of like, be for the main public, but it was a popular show. But Seinfeld with the easy sweep here moves on 3-0 into the second round. All right, let's go down to Boy Meets World and Family Matters. So Franklin, I'm gonna start you off with these two.
Yeah, this one's a tough one. I got a tough one here. I'm probably gonna lean more Boy Meets World, and I may regret that later. But I think a lot of it, the shows are very similar. They we talked about when we started, they were both in that TGIF realm, and they overlapped a little bit. So a lot of that was really the same, the same kind of production, same kind of storylines, that big, goofy thing that's going to happen, and the big awe moment at the end. So, they both had them, but I think with me, it was the age level of the characters. They related more to me as opposed to Family Matters, because I think when Family Matters started, I was definitely a little younger, a little below them in age, and so didn't quite always maybe get the references as I was young. I enjoyed the hell out of that show though too. There's a lot of great things that could be taken from it, but I think in terms of age and stuff, like I kind of related to Boy Meets World a little better.
Okay. All right, so a vote for Boy Meets World. Greg, on to you.
Yeah, we're going to put you to work, Justin, because I'm actually going to go with Family Matters. But this was also very tough. And I guess, a lot of what Brad said kind of rings true. I guess the tiebreaker for me, there's so many different criteria you can look at, but Steve Urkel was just like growing up like that. He was like a freaking, like, he was a very iconic character. And it's interesting that Jaleel White, I'm not sure did he ever really do anything besides play Steve Urkel, but that was just such a, there were a lot of characters in these shows, but he's up there kind of in the Mount Rushmore of like, characters in 90s sitcoms. And it was just, and I think of like 13-year-old me just found all those antics just hilarious. So, and it was a great show, and you called it that, those awe moments. It was always, they touched on some serious topics. Obviously it's an African-American family sitcom in the 90s. And they touched on some of those topics, and it was a really good show. And I'm going to go with, I'll go with Family Matters and make Justin be the tiebreaker here.
Okay. All right. Well, this one is a clear choice to me. Being a white kid from the suburbs, I definitely relate more to Family Matters, the black family from the city. I don't know why. I just never really got into Boy Meets World. I always thought Topanga was good looking. Just maybe because she was but I never really got into that show. Mr. Feeney, I thought was a cool character. I really didn't like, what was his name? Corey, the main character. I just never really got into, and he was that Fred Savage's brother?
Yep. Yes, it's his little brother.
I don't know why. I just never really super got into that show. Mr. Feeney isn't even the coolest principal in this bracket of, so clearly number two. So I'm going to, I think you both made great points about both shows, and they're both good shows. But for me in this one, I'm voting Family Matters. So we have a Seinfeld Family Matters matchup in the next round. So we're going on to the rollerblades region. And since we're going to the rollerblades region, and we are going to go to Greg to start this one off. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air versus Mad About You. So Greg, why don't you start this one off?
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty easy one for me, probably for all of us. But I mean, Fresh Prince is, I could almost talk about that as much as I talk about Seinfeld. But at a very basic level, it launched a career of possibly the most famous movie star in the world, who is famous for all the right reasons until a few months ago. But nonetheless, it was the coming out party for Will Smith, and it's a show again that still makes the circulations through reruns, and it's still entertaining to this day. And I know Mad About You was a good show, had a good run. It's probably kind of all the shows on here, it's probably one of the ones I've seen the least. I can't really remember too. I know it's Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt, but I don't remember too much more about the show than that. Nothing against that show, but Fresh Prince moves on for me.
Okay, Brett, to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Fresh Prince as well, but like I did last time, I'm gonna start off with Mad About You, and I'm kind of equating it to how I feel about it, similar to, and I'm gonna do our Seinfeld reference away from Seinfeld, the way that George felt about it as they watch reruns of it in bed, him and Susan.
That's right.
Like,
I forgot about that.
Like it wasn't a terrible show, but it wasn't anything, like I couldn't tell you anything that ever happened in that show at all. I probably watched it enough just because, in passing, or just it was on after a show. Another show I was watching. But I mean, Fresh Prince, there's still so many moments that still equate to us today. And I think even when there's certain things that go on, there are some of the most profound moments ever on that show.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care that I say it, that the episode when Will's dad leaves him again, and he just I break watching that episode too. Like, it's just, they're so, it was funny, but it did the right things at the right time in terms of getting good messages out, and or even touching on really good subjects that needed to be touched on.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as well said as you can do. So I'm just going to agree with both of you and move Fresh Prince on with a clean sweep. We will go to the next one, which is probably the best matchup so far: Home Improvement versus The Wonder Years. So Brett, let's go with you on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Home Improvement. To me, it's not a terrible thing. Like, we started off saying, this was a show that I'd love to watch. I was so excited when I was able to. It changed its time, and I was able to stay up and watch it. So, but even a few years back, I went as Al from Tool Time. Grew the beard, had a wig on, of course, but like, it was. I love that show. It's funny, things can be a little goofy with some of the characters nowadays, but I think for the most part, it was a reason to tune every week. It was, just good, funny stuff. It was sort of slapstick in a way, but it was also like there was a purpose behind it. So
okay,
I got to go Home Improvement pretty easily on that one.
Okay, all right, Greg, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna vote Home Improvement too, just because that was really one of my 2 or 3 favorite shows growing up. But The Wonder Years was a tremendous show. And it's weird. I mean, I know they have the new Wonder Years on now, which I admittedly haven't watched. But they don't have I don't see a lot of reruns of the Wonder Years, and it would be a show I'd like to go back and watch, because I do remember, even though it was a show set back in the 60s. Like, it was, to your point, Brett, earlier about Boy Meets World, I feel like it was pretty aligned as far as how we were growing up. Maybe it was a little bit ahead of where we were growing up. But I remember, like, kind of emotionally really feeling some of the things that happened on that show, because they touched on a lot of serious topics. And it was obviously from the narration of the Fred Savage character as an adult, which I think it was Daniel Stern, wasn't it? From Home Alone. But you talk about touching on some very serious topics. That show did it, and I remember always kind of, it maybe taught me a lot about growing up. So shout out to the Wonder Years, but Home Improvement was just, it was appointment viewing. It was great. So I will vote them Home Improvement to move along.
Easy enough. So another 3-0 sweep. Unfortunately, both Savage brothers are eliminated early on in the first round. But yeah, Home Improvement, great show. Wonder Years again. I think Greg, I think you touched on all the good points of it. So Winnie Cooper and this Mr. Savage both out, like you said. Daniel Stern, is that his name?
Yeah.
Next to, I think a lot of people forget, they just think of him in Home Alone and forget about the Wonder Years. And then the only other thing I'll say about that song is, or the intro song, is Joe Cocker, I think. With a little help from my friends. And I think a lot of these shows have great songs, but that one kind of sticks out to me too. So but we have another clean sweep. So in the rollerblade region, we got the Fresh Prince and Home Improvement moving on for a second round matchup. Let's go to the starter jacket region. Did either of you guys have a starter jacket growing up?
Heck yeah.
No, I did not.
Cavs starter jacket.
Nice.
Definitely.
I had a Charlotte Hornets starter jacket. No reason except I think it was just like the cool thing at the time. But yeah, starter jackets kind of making a comeback now. So, all right, let's move on to that region. Let's start off with Friends versus Martin. So Greg, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, Friends are going to move on here. Martin is probably the show I watched the least out of all 16 of these. I mean, I can't even tell you anything about that show other than it's Martin Lawrence was in it. So it's almost like an incomplete for me, but I know I was on for a while and I'm sure it was a very good show. Friends, I would say, I guess, Friends was a bigger show than Seinfeld, right? Kind of ratings wise and overall, probably the biggest show on here in terms of popularity. I never loved it like I love some of these other ones, but it's hard to argue with a show that lasted that long and was that popular. I mean, it was certainly a show that I watched. I can't say I've watched every episode, but certainly good enough to move on here.
Okay. Brett?
Am I still, can you guys hear me still?
We can hear you. You might be frozen a little bit, but we can hear you.
Okay. I gotta go with Friends on this one as well. I've seen Martin. I haven't seen a ton of it, but I did see Martin. It was enjoyable. I always like Martin Lawrence. But to me, Friends was another middle school show. We were watching it all the time, and it was another one. If you didn't watch it, you missed it. You had nothing to talk about with the kids on Friday morning. So Friends, to me, it's got to be Friends.
Yeah, I think this is an easy one here for me. Martin, again, kind of like a show like Mad About You. Didn't really watch it a whole lot, but Friends is kind of one of those. Even if you didn't like it, you kind of still liked it a little bit, or at least enough to like Brett, like you said, BS about it with some friends at school, like no pun intended. But yeah, so Friends with the easy, clean sweep 3-0. Moving on. Next, we're going to the I guess Illinois here with Married with Children and Roseanne. Both shows. I think Roseanne took place in Rockford, Illinois, and Married with Children outside of Chicago. Even though Al Bundy, made his roots at Polk High, which really is Ursuline High in Youngstown, Ohio. So, Brett, let's start with you on this one. So, Married with Children and Roseanne.
When it comes to Roseanne, I am probably one of the people that just never got into that show. There were certainly some memorable points to it. I really, there's some, especially I remember the one, it's probably one of the more memorable shows of any TV show, to be honest. This is a episode where they, with the tornado, and it kind of like ran through the town. It eventually, obviously damaged a lot of stuff, but I just never got into Roseanne. I still, even the shows the new ones now.
Oh,
I don't know if it's just I don't relate to it or I just don't find it funny. I don't know if it's just not the humor, but Marry the Children, it's funny. It's not. Some of it's a little, off the wall, maybe a little out there, but to me, yeah, Marry the Children, even. Didn't they? It was. I don't know if Christina Applegate was always the daughter. I think they
she
maybe
was. She was.
She was.
Yes.
Okay.
In Roseanne, Becky, they actually
Becky
switched.
did switch. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Sarah Chalk became the Becky after a couple seasons, I think. But yeah, I just, it's kind of like a little dirty humor in a way, but nothing that was like overly grotesque or off the wall. I just think it was kind of just at the time, it was just something that hadn't been done before. So I think in that context, I'm going to go with Married with Children.
Okay. All right, Greg, to you.
Yeah, this is like the dysfunctional family matchup here, which, again, like, growing up, I guess maybe everybody's got their share of function, dysfunction, whatever, but this is probably these types of shows were really you see how, you see how life can be for a lot of people. I'm actually going to pick Roseanne here. And I love Married with Children's great, but it never I never felt like it was I don't think was there ever actually like a storyline to the show, or it just felt like, I don't remember there being
really.
like, did you like, if you miss an episode of Married with Children, I feel like you can kind of catch right back on the following week. Like Roseanne, and I think a lot of people's feelings on Roseanne probably are based on Roseanne herself, but like, John Goodman's great. He's been great for years. Was the heck is the Jackie, the Roseanne's sister, she's been in a lot of different things.
Laurie Metcalf.
yeah, Darlene. I guess it was, it's a show that it was about a dysfunctional family, and and I think it was pretty well done. And Roseanne can be a little rough around the edges, but as far as a show's concerned, kind of looking at the two shows, I'll vote Roseanne on this one.
I think with a little Varsity Blues connection here, wasn't the daughter that took over for Becky, wasn't that the cheerleader in Varsity Blues? I don't
think so.
I don't think.
I'm gonna say look into that.
Yeah.
I think it might be, but I could be way off base there. So it looks like I got to break another tie here. I'm going to go with Brett on this one. I think I just kind of relate more to Married with Children. I think it's just funnier. I think the Al Bundy connection with Ed O'Neill being from Youngstown, kind of helps. Roseanne, there are some great moments. Greg and I always reference, oh yeah, what color are my eyes? If you don't know what we're talking about, Google it. It's great. They did a couple Halloween episodes that are really good. John Goodman's really good, but like all in all, I don't know. I think kind of like what you said, Greg. I just don't really like Roseanne Barr all that much. And I think I think even though Married with Children was probably like a little bit beyond what I probably should have been watching at the time. It's probably a little raunchier. You could probably get canceled on a show like that today. But I think that one moves on for me. So Married with Children, I got to break the tie here. Moves on and with a matchup with Friends in round 2.
By the way, Allie Larder was the girl.
Yes, and Allie Larder is the cheerleader from Varsity Blues.
No.
Oh, no.
Sarah Chalk was the girl who came in on Roseanne.
I thought I got it right. My bad. Thank you for fact checking though. That's a good catch there. All right, gentlemen, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with the grunge music region, and then we'll wrap up the second and third rounds here. So we'll be right back. Maybe. All right, we are back. Real quick reminder, make sure you guys follow us on the 330 Sports Show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Greg Kirchner and Brett Franklin, we've ran through 3 rounds so far. We're going to run through region 4 here. And let's recap what we did. I'm going to share my screen one more time. And let's make sure we got it. You guys see that all right?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. All right, good deal. All right, so we are through 3 regions, and we're going to go to the grunge music region. I probably should have put Frasier in this region, being in Seattle, but we got a little West Coast representation in Full House and Saved by the Bell. So this round, let's go to Full House and Third Rock from the Sun. Mr. Franklin, let's start with you on this one.
You know what? I watched it every week, and you know, I think at the time I loved it. You looking back on it now in hindsight, it was.
Oh man, we gotta get Brett's internets from the 1990s here.
Suspense.
All right, Greg, let's go to you, and then Franklin can jump back in.
Yeah, I think my thought here is Full House. I think it was. I think where he was going was Full House is something that I think we all watched every week. It was really a good, like, wholesome family sitcom. And it was great. I think it was probably a little unrealistic, but it was the kind of the staple of TGIF. Third Rock from the Sun, I do remember watching, and I think it's probably an underappreciated show, and it was a really smart show. And I just remember it being, really, really funny and really smartly done again. And John Lithgow was great on it. And, but with all that being said, I think again, Full House is kind of was just such a fixture growing up that I'm gonna go with Full House.
Okay. All right, Brett,
Sorry about that. Sorry about my connection's okay, but then it's getting iffy every now and again.
It's all right. You're reliving the 90s of dial-up internet.
Literally, well done. So I'll keep it short. Full House, I never, like, looking at it, like, I don't like the show. I probably, like I said, I watched it all the time. But Third Rock, I love Third Rock. I still watch it. It's on, I've got the digital antenna. It's on the Laugh channel. Like, I will watch it on there. I think it's hilarious. And I just think the humor kind of fits more of me. Yeah. I think there's points to where that kind of moment is just overdone. I think Full House way overdid it. I don't know if there were too many points that were like, or at least moments where it's like, oh yeah, that was something they really needed to touch on. So
sure.
So to me, again, it's not that I shouldn't say that it's terrible. It's just it just wasn't me. I like looking at it, just didn't love it.
That's fair. And like, to each their own. That's what this is all about. And like, for me, I think I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I relate more to Full House. I think I don't know, rest in peace Danny Tanner. I don't know, a bunch of kids. I grew up with a single parent. He was a single dad. But I don't know, I thought the characters were likable. Like, Joey's kind of a goofball. Uncle Jesse's pretty cool. Aunt Becky was really nice to look at, even though she's in prison right now. And Stephanie turned, I think like Stephanie was our age when we were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I always kind of thought she was kind of a cool character. And I don't know, the twins, the freaking dog. I liked everything about that show. And you knew there was like some cheesy cliche coming at the end, but it still was something I really liked. So for that reason, I'm taking Full House over Third Rock from the Sun. But like Brett said, though, and Greg said, really smart show, Third Rock from the Sun. I think NBC at one point tried to make that its like #1 show. It played it after a Super Bowl. It played it, you know, like in prime time, in very good positioning. But John Lithgow, what was the kid's name? He's a big time actor now.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Levitt,
Yeah,
yeah. And I mean, he's gone on to like some serious fame, but you know, just a good show, but not a show like I couldn't tell you like a plot of one particular episode, but it was a show I watched like here and there a handful of times. So for that reason, Full House moves on for me. Now let's move on to the final matchup of round one. We got Saved by the Bell and Everybody Loves Raymond. I'm gonna lead off real quick on this one since I haven't done it yet. And I'm just gonna say, to me, when I was putting this together and just compiling matchups, to me, this is kind of like the 8-9 seed. Kind of like for me, it's like the hardest one to pick because I really love both of these shows. Two completely different shows, you know, like two different eras. I think I got into Everybody Loves Raymond after it was off the air, almost kind of like The Office. And Saved by the Bell, I watched it week by week. You know, Saturday mornings, it was like the thing to watch. And I guess just for me, reminiscing, Saved by the Bell to me moves on in this one. So Brett, let's go to you and what's your thoughts? Saved by the Bell, you know, Zach Attack, Screech, Lisa, Kelly, Jesse, whatever, AC,
the toga party
versus you know, Robert and
I don't know.
Oh man, Brett is living in the AOL. He's putting up his instant messenger away message. Greg, let's go to you. Saved by the Bell versus
sorry guys, sorry, it froze on me again.
Go ahead now, Brett, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the nostalgia part to me. I would say by the Bell. The thing about Everybody Loves Raymond, I like the show. Don't get me wrong, but there's a thing with it that show it tends to be repetitious, and it's always the same thing. It's Ray does something stupid. His brother is pissed at him for it. His dad says something snarky. Mom hates the wife or whatever her name is. Deborah, she gets up in arms about what just happened. It's the same show every week. Yep. So you just get kind of old. You've seen one, you've seen them all. So to me, Saved by the Bell is the better bet.
Okay, Greg.
That's interesting. I thought this would be a 2-1. I just figured somebody would pick Everybody Loves Raymond, but and it's, you know, it is a great show. And it's always funny to watch, but like there's not a show that I watch more. I mean, I've watched so much Seinfeld, but there is not a show that I've watched more in my life than Saved by the Bell. I mean, when I say that I've watched every episode at least 50 times, that is not an exaggeration. I could probably quote almost every line of every episode. So it was just rightly or wrongly. I mean, and it's like, it's not the most like rewatchable now. I mean, it's so cheesy, like, but it was such a part of my childhood that it moves on based on that.
Okay. All right. So let's do this real quick then. Since we clean swept it, who's your favorite character from Saved by the Bell? You only can pick one. Brett?
I'm gonna go Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Greg? Kelly.
I was gonna say adolescent me would say Kelly. I think adult me would probably just say Screech, because I mean he was great.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
I think at the time I probably wished I was Zach. So I'm gonna probably go with Zach just because, you know, he's Mr. Popular is pretty awesome. So all right, Saved by the Bell moves on. Let me throw in one quick plug for Everybody Loves Raymond. The funniest 8 minutes of comedy, I will say, maybe one of the funniest 8 minutes I've ever seen on TV. There's an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond where Robert brings home a girlfriend over to Ray and Deb's house for dinner, and it's called The Fly. So just look it up. It is the funniest 8 minutes of television. Like Ray Barone doesn't even say anything for 2 minutes of this episode. That's all I'm going to say. You have to go YouTube. Everybody loves Raymond the Fly. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, please go do it right after this because it is hilarious. But Saved by the Bell with a clean sweep. All right, let's move on to round 2. And the matchups, these are going to be a little tougher, but we're going to kind of fire through these quickly since we talked about all these shows. All right, so let's start with Seinfeld and Family Matters. Let's just go with our votes here. So Brett, what do you got? Seinfeld or Family Matters? Frozen. He's like the ice and the frozen caveman lawyer from SNL.
Sorry. Sorry.
Right. No, don't apologize. You're fine. Brett, what do you got? Seinfeld or Family Matters?
Seinfeld, easy.
Seinfeld. Greg?
I'd say for Family Matters, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm going to go with Seinfeld.
All right. Clean sweep. Seinfeld moving on to the final 4 here. All right. Next one. Fresh Prince and Home Improvement. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, this is like Kentucky Duke in the regional final, but I'm gonna go with Fresh Prince by a nose. I mean, I loved both of these shows. Still love both of these shows.
Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I love Home Improvement, but I got to give them the old jazz toss. I got to go Fresh Prince.
Wow, we got 2 clean sweeps here to the final 4. So the winner of the East Coast, West Coast region is Seinfeld. The winner of the Rollerblades region is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So let's move on to the starter jacket region. We got Friends versus Married with Children. So this is a little bit of a tougher one, I think, but we'll see. So I know which way I think Greg's voting, but we'll see. Greg, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I just, like I said, I don't love Friends, but it's just almost like it feels like they're not ready to bow out of this yet. So I'll pick Friends. I'll kind of give them the respect of being such a popular show. So I'll go with Friends.
All right, Brett.
This is a little bit of a tough one, but I think I got to lean Friends on this one. There's certainly reasons you could not, but I'm going to go with it.
Yeah. I reluctantly vote Friends here too. I think if it was in a different matchup, I might, have another sitcom going over that. But I think Friends advances out of this region as well to make it to the final 4. And then finally, I didn't put them up on the screen yet. We have Full House and we have Saved by the Bell. So Greg, let's start with you on that one. Full House and Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, for reasons mentioned earlier, I'm gonna stick with Saved by the Bell here.
We got another sweep. I'm going Saved by the Bell as well.
Yeah, all right, easy enough. So
seems like a little shocker there. I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So Saved by the Bell comes out of the grunge music region, maybe giving a little ode to California Dreams there. And the starter jacket region, Friends takes, Seinfeld takes the East Coast, West Coast, and Fresh Prince. So we got a Seinfeld, Fresh Prince, Friends, and Saved by the Bell final 4 here. So let's go with our first final 4 matchup. We got Seinfeld versus the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So New York City and West Coast LA taking on Brett. Let's start with you on this one. Seinfeld and Fresh Prince.
This isn't fair. This isn't fair. These should be in the finals. But man, I gotta go Seinfeld. It's like one of my all-time favorite shows. I think when we did this stuff for you, they were number 1 on my list. It's just Seinfeld in this instance. So,
all right.
As much as I love Fresh Prince, damn it.
Yeah, no, this is like number 1 and 2 in my mind too. But Seinfeld is still master of its domain.
Greg,
well done.
The references.
Well done. Well, if I was going to go with my instincts, I might go with the Fresh Prince, but I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to go with Seinfeld. So we got another.
Well done.
Well done.
So clean sweep for Seinfeld, which makes it to the final. Now we have what? Friends versus Saved by the Bell. So Friends versus Saved by the Bell. Greg, you're going to lead off on this one.
Yeah, the Cinderella story continues. I think I'm going to take Saved by the Bell to the finals. This is yeah, again, just if there's Friends on one channel and Saved by the Bell on another channel today, I'm flipping it to Saved by the Bell. Simple as that.
Okay. Brett?
I got to get a reference in here. You know, Kramer could be carrying the Friends treatment into LA, into the studio, and I would still probably go with Saved by the Bell.
All right. Very good.
Yeah, I'm going Saved by the Bell too.
Okay. All right. Saved by the Bell moves on. I would have picked Saved by the Bell as well. Just so many good characters. And like Greg said, if one of those two shows are on TV, I think I'm going with Saved by the Bell over Friends. Friends has a couple really good episodes that I would probably choose over some of the lesser Saved by the Bells, but overall, pound for pound, Saved by the Bell takes it. So we got Seinfeld and Saved by the Bell in our 90s TV championship matchup here. So the floor is yours, guys. Whatever you want to say, whatever you want to vote on. So I'll tell you what, Brett, let's lead off with you. You got the first vote, Seinfeld versus Saved by the Bell in the championship game.
Yeah, I mean, we just went from a 1 versus 2 to basically what seems like Duke versus Butler. Just seems like it's overmatched a bit. I would take Seinfeld 10 out of 10 times here. I like Saved by the Bell. You know, we all obviously we know this. We've already said it, but man, I Seinfeld all day.
Let's not forget though, Gordon Hayward had a shot at the buzzer to take it to overtime with Duke in the championship game. So, I think it still applies. It may still be close here. and don't forget too, AC Slater had a chance to win the league championship game, and Mr. Belding said, "Shoot your hopes and dreams." And before he realized what happened, the time ran out as Zach tore his ACL before the game. So, so Greg, go ahead. You got Seinfeld and Saved by the Bell. I know two of your favorites.
I mean, I know we've been on this unanimous train for a while, but I mean, Seinfeld is to me the all-time greatest sitcom. Still watch it a lot, still quote it a lot. So, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but yada, 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 Seinfeld wins.
Oh, man. Well, Saved by the Bell was angry that day, my friend, like an old man sending his suit back at the diner, because Seinfeld takes it with a 3-0 sweep. Seinfeld is our 90s TV bracket champion. The only thing I will say is, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Curb Your Enthusiasm and Larry David, but to me, I think that show is actually a little bit better than Seinfeld. And I might be going out on a limb there, but to me, I would rank it slightly ahead. Now, I know doesn't fit in our 90s region, but Larry David, the creator of Seinfeld, creator of Curb Your Enthusiasm, George is actually based on Larry David.
Mm-hmm.
But some great great characters and great shows. And I mean, we can quote it all day long, Seinfeld. So
let me ask you this. Do you think Curb Your Enthusiasm might be a little bit better because the fact it was on HBO and they didn't have to be censored in certain ways? So you had a little more freedom.
Well, and I think it can ride off the coattails of Seinfeld too, and it kind of gets the cachet of that. They've even weaved like Elaine and George into some of those episodes too. So I think you're right. They can kind of it's kind of like the politically incorrect or non PC version of Seinfeld. So yeah. Any last thoughts, gentlemen, before we wrap up here?
I would just say I know you guys are fans of The Office. Would you put The Office above Seinfeld, or you still
Brett,
would you put I guess besides Curb Your, or I guess I'll ask Brett. I mean, because you said you'd put Curb Your Enthusiasm slightly above. Is there any show throughout history that you'd put above Seinfeld, or even on the same, same pedestal as Seinfeld? For me, there's not. Um,
Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Greg there. To me, I don't know if there's a better show out there. There's shows I enjoy watching. I won't say I hate Friends. I think there's parts to it that are a little you can deal without, essentially. But I think for the most part, I think to me Seinfeld does it. I think it's just not necessarily repetition, but the ability to just relate to the everyday life idea. And I think that's what makes that show so intriguing. To me, even when people say that they don't like it, I don't understand why they don't. I really struggle with that.
Yeah.
There's other shows though. If they say I don't like this, I get it. I was like, I can see it, but Seinfeld, I just don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we're talking like strictly comedies, I'm probably going Curb Your Enthusiasm, Seinfeld, and then I mean, there's Saved by the Bell, Fresh Prince are all kind of right there, right behind it. 1A, 1B kind of thing. But I do have other favorite shows that are like more dramas, more like like Game of Thrones and type stuff like that. But I mean, to me, Seinfeld is one of those ones that's like such a rewatchable. I think The Office is right there. But I don't think I don't know. To me, it's kind of like apples and oranges. It's just like whatever your flavor is that day, whatever you like. But I don't know. To me, I'd probably still watch a Seinfeld over, or at least a later episode of Seinfeld over The Office. So some of the early Seinfelds were, they worked out the kinks of that first season, and it got better and better as it aged. So that's just my thoughts on that.
I guess the only other question I'll pose, and I think the answer is yes, is the sitcom dead as we knew it? It just doesn't even feel like, when we go through these, it's like trying to think there. I couldn't name you one sitcom that's on right now, or at least one that I watch. It just feels like, kind of, you could say the same thing for kind of the raunchy comedy movies. Like, you're not going to see, there's not going to be movies like The Hangover or The 40-Year-Old Virgin again. Now, I mean, in the PC world we live in, that is a downside. And I just feel like, the sitcom and comedy as we knew it is kind of dead.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah. It's easy to look at shows, the way they're constructed, movies even just to be like, oh, they can't do that now. Like, it's, you see it so often. I mean, even movies dating back to the 70s, like with Blazing Saddles and things like that. It's like, oh, you can't get away with that anymore. Which is, sad to a point, especially when it's actually more like comedy based on there's a meaning behind it, and it's bringing a message. So, but yeah, I think when it comes to now, I mean, you've got a handful of them. Nothing that really, not too many that stick out. I think, shows like Goldberg's, things like that, they're around, they're okay, but there's nothing like it was. Like, Thursday night you had 4 shows straight in a row on NBC that were hilarious that you're gonna watch. You don't have that anymore. You may have 1 or 2 that are decent that will maybe carry you into the following show after it. But that's about it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like Greg said, I can't even think of one I'm watching now. If I watch like a sitcom right now, it's usually an old Seinfeld or an old Office that's randomly streaming. But the shows I'm watching right now are like Ozark, Better Call Saul, which is a prequel to Breaking Bad, stuff like that. Nothing.
Actually, weird thing, because we didn't include them, but some of the probably funny shows on right now are cartoons.
Oh yeah.
Like, and some of them could be super off the wall, like Rick and Morty, or you have like Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, things like that are still funny and still have that audience. But for the most part, you don't really have, I don't know, just it doesn't, unless some streaming service starts to do it,
You know
I
what?
don't think you're gonna see a network thing anymore.
I'm gonna throw out two, like one's off the air, it's not on anymore, but The League was pretty
Oh,
funny.
good
that
call.
that was a pretty good show. And one that is on now, but it's on a very small, there's a small sample size, is Ted Lasso, is pretty good. And that's Jason Sudeikis, but that's on Apple TV Plus. Not a ton of people have that. So that's a really good one that I got into. But besides that, and I mean, I had to freaking Google that because I was trying to think of, like, off the top of my head, I couldn't even think of any that are on like regular ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. So, like Greg said, I think the end of it's like an end of an era into a new era of just streaming where, you binge watch stuff or whatever. So it'll be interesting though, because things ebb and flow and make a comeback, and it'd be kind of cool. I think everybody deep down kind of wants that like raunchy comedy or just like funny movie off the wall stuff. So if it's gone long enough, people will crave it and it'll be back. So, all right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Again, Seinfeld with the clean sweep to the finals in every round gets it done. So Seinfeld is the winner of our ultimate 90s movie, TV movie bracket. So Greg, Brett, thank you guys. And we'll do this again soon. Appreciate you. And everybody have a great day. All right, the winner of our TV comedy shows of the 1990s bracket challenge is Seinfeld. Seinfeld moves on, takes out Frasier, takes out Family Matters, takes out The Fresh Prince, and takes out Saved by the Bell in the championship game to win it. So this will be our first bracket challenge. We'll have more down the road, but hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts and comments, and feel free to subscribe to Youngstown Studios YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter streams, as well as following the 330 Sports Show at 330 Sports Show on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All right. Thanks, guys. And everybody have a great